Good morning, friends and family, and welcome to our daily devotional in the Walking with Jesus tour for Wednesday, August the 28th, 2019. Today we have the story of the Raising of Lazarus, which only comes from the one gospel, but it's a little bit of a longer story. So we're reading from John's Gospel, the 11th chapter, verses 1 through 44. So let's hop into it. A man named Lazarus was sick. He lived in Bethany with his sisters, Mary and Martha. This is the Mary who later poured the expensive perfume on the Lord's feet and wiped them with her hair. Her brother Lazarus was sick, so the two sisters sent a message to Jesus telling him, "Lord, your dear friend is very sick." But when Jesus heard about it, he said, "Lazarus' sickness will not end in death. No, it will happen for the glory of God, so that the Son of Man will receive glory from this." So although Jesus loved Mary, Martha, and Lazarus, he stayed where he was for the next 2 days. Finally, he said to his disciples, "Let's go back to Judea." But the disciples objected. "Rabbi," they said, "only a few days ago people in Judea were trying to stone you. Are you going there again?" Jesus replied, "There are 12 hours of daylight every day. During the day, people can walk safely. They can see because they have light of this world. But at night there is danger of stumbling because they have no light." Then he said, "Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but now I will go and wake him up." The disciples said, "Lord, if he is sleeping, he will soon get better." They thought Jesus meant Lazarus was simply sleeping, but Jesus meant Lazarus had died. So he told them plainly, "Lazarus is dead, and for your sakes I'm glad I wasn't there, for now you will really believe. Come, let's go see him." Thomas, nicknamed the twin, said to his fellow disciples, "Let's go too and die with Jesus." When Jesus arrived at Bethany, he was told that Lazarus had already been in the grave for 4 days. Bethany was only a few miles down the road from Jerusalem, and many of the people had come to console Martha and Mary in their loss. When Martha got word that Jesus was coming, she went to meet him, but Mary stayed in the house. Martha said to Jesus, "Lord, if only you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that God will give you whatever you ask." Jesus told her, "Your brother will rise again." "Yes," Martha said, "he will rise when everyone else rises at the last day." Jesus told her, "I am the resurrection and the life. Anyone who believes in me will live even after dying. Everyone who lives in me and believes in me will never, ever die." "Do you believe this, Martha?" "Yes, Lord," she told him. "I have always believed you are the Messiah, the Son of God, the one who has come into the world from God." Then she returned to Mary. She called Mary aside from the mourners and told her, "The teacher is here and wants to see you." So Mary immediately went to him. Jesus had stayed outside the village at the place where Martha met him. When the people who were at the house consoling Mary saw her leave so hastily, they assumed she was going to Lazarus' grave to weep, so they followed her there. When Mary arrived and saw Jesus, she fell at his feet and said, "Lord, if only you had been here, my brother would not have died." When Jesus saw her weeping and saw the other people wailing with her, a deep anger welled up within him, and he was deeply troubled. "Where have you put him?" he asked. They told him, "Lord, come and see." Then Jesus wept. The people who were standing nearby said, "See how he loved him." But some said, "This man healed a blind man. Couldn't he have kept Lazarus from dying?" Jesus was still angry as he arrived at the tomb, a cave with a stone rolled across its entrance. "Roll the stone aside," Jesus told them. But Martha, the dead man's sister, protested, "Lord, he has been dead for 4 days. The smell will be terrible." Jesus responded, "Didn't I tell you that you would see God's glory if you believe?" So they rolled the stone aside. Then Jesus looked up to heaven and said, "Father, thank you for hearing me. You always hear me, but I said it out loud for the sake of all these people standing here, so they will believe you sent me." Then Jesus shouted, "Lazarus, come out." And the dead man came out, his hands and feet bound in grave clothes, his face wrapped in a headcloth. Jesus told them, unwrap him, and let him go. This is one of the more famous stories in Scripture. Most people know that Jesus raised a man from the dead. They may not know the name Lazarus. They may not fully understand the story, but this is one of those stories that we hear early on. And it's interesting to me. One of the things I noticed as I was reading it today is the couple of times where it mentions Jesus was angry. He was angry at the people. He was angry at their people for their lack of faith. He was angry at the people for their unwillingness to believe that he could do something. That somehow, in this moment, 4 days dead was too dead for Jesus to do something. I wonder how often we tend to fall in that category. Well, God, it's been too long. I guess there's just nothing that you can do to redeem this situation. Again, like I've said before, and I'll say again, God doesn't give us miracles to reset things. God doesn't give us miracles to all of a sudden make it as if the bad thing never happened. But God does use miracles to save us, to redeem us, and to sanctify us. And so in this moment, Jesus takes a 4-day dead old man and brings him back to life. Most of the people in the crowd don't believe this is even possible. The reality is, for Hebrew customs, you had to be in the grave for at least 3 days before you were considered truly dead. Think of someone going into the morgue today, and are they just paralyzed? Are they, they just knocked unconscious? And this gives that opportunity to make sure that they're still alive or not. But at 4 days, he would have been fully and completely, and from their perspective, clinically dead. And from our perspective as human beings, once you're there, there's no coming back. And yet for God, nothing is impossible. I wonder where our faith falls short today. I wonder where you might not believe that God can do something, and where it might invoke a little bit of anger in Jesus, because he's still got a plan. He's still got a purpose, and he longs to move you forward. So today, my challenge to you is believe. Believe in God's plan for your life. Believe in God's plan for this moment. And believe that God can and God will redeem and sanctify everything you go through. It may not come out the way you want. It may not come out anywhere close to what you think. But know that God can and God will use it for his glory if you will believe in him and follow his lead. I hope that's a good word for you today, and I'll see you tomorrow.